illegal foreigners apprehended and charged. More debate on land ownership in Parliament. And New Ireland hosts first Education Expo.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayre.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Tuesday's news. NCD Governor Pos Pakop says the onus is on the Office of the Surveyor General to complete a survey of portion 2129 Granville Port Moresby, the piece of land that Jack Piddick Park sits on. However, leaseholder Capital Centre Limited, or TSD group of companies, says the survey was completed in May this year.
The land in dispute, by way of background, was swapped for the piece of land the Susumama Clinic at 3 Mile is now located on. It was done so through an NEC decision in 1991 by the then Namalu government.
They had to take over that land, and at that time there was a company called Boy Consultant, which was a company that probably set up by TST Group, or TST came to buy it. They had a license over that portion of land. So since the national government wanted it, the national government took over to build that wing of the hospital. And for some reason, defies logic and sense, the government at the time, through the minister or the lands department, decided to trade off Jack Piddick Park without consulting NCDC in exchange for that land. And this is the situation we are faced with now. It's a legacy problem. Since I became governor, I've been trying my best to resolve it. But it is not easy to resolve it because the national government made the decision. Only the national government can correct it. And we have impressed on them so many times to correct it. But up to now, instead of correcting it, they've continued to reaffirm that decision.
The land in dispute is 8.5 hectares, or approximately 6,400 square meters. And leaseholder TSC says the public has been illegally trespassing through private property for over 30 years. After a number of years in court, on the 19th of May 2021, the Waigani National Court ruled in favor of TST as the registered proprietor of portion 2129 and subjected to a properly registered survey.
The next document, which is under the next blue paper, is the registered survey map, catalogue number 491882. That shows that portion 2192 is under a registered survey. The documents behind it are a status report from the Surveyor General, dated 10th May 2021, confirming that this registered survey map is current and is properly before his office.
Following the erection of a temporary fence at Jack Piddick, NCD Governor in his capacity as the chairman of NCD Fiscal Planning Board issued a stop work and demolition notice to TST. The governor says the Office of the General Surveyor is yet to conduct a survey on the disputed piece of land.
But the important thing is that we have stopped the construction of the fence. What I want to assure our city residents is that I'm determined to demolish that fence. Constructing that fence is an insult to city and to our people. And it's not consistent with the law.
But lawyers representing TST says otherwise, with the view that the land has been zoned as a commercial space and all legal documents have already been presented to the governor's office.
We confirm that all parties were present and represented in this court proceeding that was lodged last year in July. We went to court, we were referred to mediation. Mediation spread out throughout the course of the remainder of 2020 and the beginning of 2021. Mediation failed, and so we went back to court and we were granted these court orders on 19th of May.
Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
In Parliament, more concerns on the buying of public space were raised through a series of questions by East Sepik Governor Alan Bird. Making reference to similar cases in East Sepik Province, the Governor says more needs to be done to protect public spaces for further generations.
Bringing the discussions onto the floor of Parliament, East Sepik Governor Alan Bird asked what most Papua New Guineans have been questioning: the possibility of the national government to go back and review the decision of 1991.
Is it possible for us as a state to go back and seek a review so that this public infrastructure can be available to our people? And not only this one, but where there are other instances around the country where public spaces have been taken over by private individuals. Could the minister give an undertaking that his department will seek to overturn those court decisions in favor of our people? My third question: who is the custodian and who protects these public services, public spaces rather, on behalf of our people?
Following on from yesterday, Capital Centre Limited released a statement today saying despite the Supreme Court's judgment recognizing its indefeasible title and right to use the land, NCDC has been using its physical planning powers to frustrate CCL's efforts. This was briefly explained by their lawyer yesterday.
Through the NEC, there are NEC decisions, and all due process was complied with, and the swap took place. So the state went ahead and developed, and Capital Centre Limited has been denied its rights ever since.
NCDC, as a defendant, on the other hand, admits that it's a legacy issue that they are trying to manage. Now, in response to Governor Bird's concerns, Lands Minister John Rosso said the issue of buying public space for private commercial use is happening throughout Papua New Guinea. Thus, as a way forward, members of Parliament must identify all recreational areas to prevent such cases.
While it was the title was given, it was a recreational area. The title at the time of giving the Boy Consultancy was for a business lease, to my knowledge. So now we're starting the thing to see if we can be able to unravel this web of problems, legacy issues. So Jack Piddick Park, now I'll issue him again, and the minister at the time issued the NCDC refused the physical planning zoning. They then appealed to the minister at the time, and the minister at the time upheld the appeal and gave it to the above mentioned company. So this was something, a complex issue. Now, it's not just a Jack Piddick Park. You got plenty of recreational areas around Papua New Guinea. Plenty of recreational areas. Even back in my hometown in Leyte, plenty of park na oval na kind something or same. All business houses, all pisim, all this park. In my backyard in Papuan compound, I've been fighting to get back my own park. That has been a recreational park for the last 40 years.
Meanwhile, the fencing around Jack Piddick Park is nearing completion. Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
And a correction there, the land in question is a portion 2192 and not 2129. Moving on, Prime Minister James Marape says companies have the right to impose occupational health and safety measures for its employees to be vaccinated. He was responding to questions from the leader of the opposition, Belden Nama, on the floor of Parliament.
The Prime Minister tell the people of this country.
The opposition leader did a follow-up on his COVID-19 vaccines questions from last week, again directing it to the Prime Minister.
What is his government's clear policy on vaccination? You cannot say, oh, it's not compulsory, but companies are at liberty. You are leaving the doors open for abuse.
We need our economy to function also. We find a fine balance between safety of our country and our people, as well as keeping the economy running. Mr. Speaker. And so in that context, our companies in our country will not be imposed by our government that you have compulsory vaccination. That option remains for them to be open, but they must operate. It is their call to operate in a safe workplace environment.
Mr. Marape adds companies have a duty to the well-being of their employees and customers under occupational health and safety measures.
A company will operate under Companies Act. Company also will operate under the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Only get right long deciding one and workplace safety belong company belong. Our human right is fundamental, but you must also saw it. All this right is also a qualified right. You must exercise right within the context right too.
The Prime Minister told Parliament that if anyone felt their rights have been in any way violated during the time of the pandemic, they can report the matter. That would test and see the Pandemic Act take effect. The opposition leader also queried public funds spent in the COVID-19 response.
When each government will table the audit report on COVID funds, Treasurer's financial statement is not an audit report.
But exactly how much money along National Control Center, the Health Minister's statement is in fact coming on after this question time, and by making some legally, but the full report, hopefully in September, is ready, and we will table it to Parliament. Parliament has a view on what has happened in the National Control Center in as far as financial expenditures is concerned.
Bradley Valenaki, National EMTV News.
There are not enough funds to pay some ward councillors and presidents in the country. Minister for Inter-Government Relations, Pila Naningi, said the councillors are usually paid when funds are available. He was responding to questions asked by a member for Tewai CRC, Dr. Kobi Bomare, on Parliament today. Dr. Bomare also asked whether the presidents and councillors will have to resign if they wish to contest the elections.
Now yet, plenty of local government council ward councillors, plenty don't start the payroll, some don't start the payroll yet. Now suppose usat start allowance, or usat not start allowance, you think what in plan now, thinking the department will make long and make sure that the local councillors must start the payroll or allowance belong all. Question one. Question two, what I'm thinking now, the department got long. All presidents who are thinking of contest the 2022 election. All by start when they go in the contest team, or must come up with one kind of public servant, or must resign past them. No contest. Question two. Number three, voting system of voting presidents. What councillors were voting president, or people voting president?
We have the record, which councillors been paid, which councillors not been paid. That we paid on when the funds become available. Yes, we have not paid last few months, but we'll make sure that we'll make up for it and we'll pay. In the long run, we're making a submission as to NEC would love to approve it, is to put them on the payroll. Even if they get 100 kina, 200 kina a fortnight, that's okay. Like everybody else is, they can be on the payroll. So that's our long-term planning for the council's payments, allowances. The councillors' terms will have to be increased to level with members of parliament for 5 years. That's what we will come back to parliament, and I ask the parliament to help us pass that necessary legislation so that councillors must be given a fair opportunity to represent them and equal opportunity.
A strong advocate for SMEs in his electorate, member for Moresby North East, John Kaupa, today asked the Commerce Minister and Deputy Prime Minister Sam Bassel to give an update on the much talked about reserve list for small businesses in the country.
With so much support and encouragement given to women in his electorate to start small businesses, member for Moresby North East John Kaupa wants to know the latest on the reserve list for small businesses in PNG.
So one time, this law belong SME, belong reserve employment, na reserve business. blow citizen of this country. One time by minister, one time team belongan by set him law na protect him. All line blame side like along business.
It's very common now to see a lot of small shops or tucker box operated by foreigners. While foreigners are encouraged to do business in PNG, it is a concern that they are operating small-scale businesses that can be run by Papua New Guineans.
You me training all mama lo SME go. You me lulu was some business where all line blame me yet by walking. All Narabla Asian, all Narabla family blame lo the other country only come na take over. Eagle 8 mile, 9 mile, even closer to 6 mile down, no get Narabla too. So that might happen to the other 22 provinces too.
Minister for Commerce and Deputy Prime Minister Sam Basil said the amendment to the legislation has come before NEC. However, some changes need to be made.
Mi companies lo floor parliament na Mr. Speaker mi talk sabi sem department mi play sinaw mi play glass im ken got sampla legally heavy by step inside lo display amendment only make him come so mi play pull him back na mi play work close to one time first legislative council lo ba mi play bring him come back and close to time.
The government welcomes foreign investment but needs to create a balance.
So something where me play kissing back na me play like ting long MMOSM. Suppose government make him decision now na me put him come in by plenty all this blood shop by you me ask him all give him back this blood story come back you me. What time frame by me play put him 12 months or 24 months. And then some Papua New Guineans play me, but only no ready lo kiss him suppose only sell him back. So me play too much look can lo how but me play sleep him good SME money lo next year. Suppose this play me come into force. But me play kiss him business back. But me play must buy him back.
If all goes well, Basil hopes the reserve list will be ready by September.
Na me amamas too lo toko sem display list, but me play make sure that me play give him lo Prime Minister by announce him lo September next month, September 16, by announcing all this reserve activity list by me receive him all countryman Mary Bla me.
In 2016, former Commerce Minister under the O'Neill government, Richard Maru, came up with the reserve list. This came after the Parliament in 2014 passed the Small to Medium Enterprises Corporation Act. The reserve list is part of the government's plan to create 500,000 SMEs by 2030. Shamin Poreambeb, National EMTV News.
You're watching National EMTV News. We'll have more stories after these messages. Stay with us. Welcome back. 13 non-citizens of Chinese and Bangladesh origin were apprehended and charged by the Immigration and Citizenship Authority for various breaches of their visa conditions in Lae yesterday. Each of them paid a penalty fee of 5,000 kina for discrepancies identified in their entry permits, whilst an overstayer paid 25,000 kina. This follows a joint spot check operation by the immigration and police officers on foreign-owned businesses in Lae concerning visa fraud cases.
The immigration officers in Lae and Port Moresby and the police conducted a spot check on foreign-owned businesses in Lae yesterday, following an ongoing investigation into the visa fraud case in the country. They checked few Chinese-owned shops in the city and identified 9 non-citizens who have breached the Migration Act. 8, including 3 women, were interrogated and charged at Lae's regional ICA office for breach of visa conditions. Another man was referred to Labour for discrepancies in his work permit.
They were under research and development. Research and development position is for a person who's supposed to be working in an academic institution, some sort of a research institution. But you're working in a wholesale and this is not proper. Therefore, you have been apprehended. We'll make sure we refer you to the Labour and appropriate authorities, and they will deal with you. So when you submit fraudulent documents to Labour to obtain your work permit, that means subsequently you also submit false information to immigration. Based on the information that you gave to Labour, they issue a work permit, and Immigration acted upon that and issue a visa. But we found out that the position that you're working on is not appropriate for you. It is called a research and policy manager. But you are working in a wholesaler. You are working as a manager in a wholesaler. This is totally abuse. Totally abuse.
On Saturday, the ICA officers and police picked up 8 Bangladeshi men from various shopping centres in Leh with inconsistencies with the visa. 4 were fined 5,000 kina for various breaches of their visa conditions and released with warning to fix the discrepancies. Meanwhile, the 8 Chinese paid a penalty fee each of 5,000 kina for breach of visa conditions. One of them paid 25,000 kina for overstay. His visa expired, but he continued to stay in the country. Chief Migration Officer Mr. Stanis Hulhaus said the non-citizens arrive in the country with valid entry permits. However, they fail to live within the condition of the visa and apply for renewal when permit nears expiration. Hulhaus said the trend is similar in almost every spot check operations conducted in the country where non-citizens ignore the laws of the country, especially the Migration Act. Julie Badui, Owa, National EMTV News, Leh.
New Ireland Province is currently hosting its first Education Expo after months of planning. Themed Bridging Classroom Learning to Future Careers, the Expo was officially opened by Provincial Administrator Lamila Powart yesterday. The Expo aims to equip students with essential information on the type of available careers and what subject areas they should focus on to connect them to their future career pathways.
The Education Expo is held at the Peter Torrott Hall in Kevin Town. Provincial Administrator Lamila Powart attended and officiated the program on behalf of the Governor Sir Julius Chen. Speaking during the opening, the Provincial Administrator says the province is still grinding its service delivery mechanism to provide better education for all. He says the Expo is important.
So it is important that we connect well, so that the people sitting out there are being guided well. And I recall the early days when I was a student at Utu High School, that we were guided well by guidance officers. I don't know whether guidance officers still have a place in the overall structure of every school, but it seems to have worked well for some of us.
The Expo was attended by primary and high school students in and out of town. Also part of the Expo are tertiary institutions like UOG, UPNG, Unitec and other TVET institutions, including private stakeholders. A team from Higher Education Department is also here. The Expo will include presentations and a question and answer dialogue between students and stakeholders.
You will also see that we have looked at the importance, you students, when you're here. Our idea of connecting you to your future careers is so that you understand that once you know a possible future career path, you work towards that and you put all your effort into that. If you're going to be attracted by PNG Power, then you know that, a certain field you must do well in maybe in physics, maybe in chemistry. If you want to be a teacher, get the information.
For organizers, the Expo is a guide to future pathways of New Ireland's next generation. Dr. Malpo says in line with the government's vision, students will be given the opportunity to access more information as they strive to connect their classroom learning to a desired career pathway.
We hope that when you are here, that the whole idea is so that you teach more focused lessons and relate classroom learning to the real life so that the kids will enjoy going to school because they know that I already have some ideas of where I want to be.
The Expo will end on Thursday. Jack Lapava Jr., National EMTV News, Kevian.
With the COVID-19 global pandemic taking a toll on businesses, the extractive industry has also had it tough with expatriate staff who fly in and out of various mine sites having faced restrictions. But there is a good outcome with the commencement of FIFO from Brisbane, Australia.
What it requires now, particularly with workers coming out of different jurisdictions, they quarantine in their home countries and they quarantine here in Papua New Guinea. And from a health and safety and the mindset of our workers, this is quite stressful. We have a once a week FIFO flight out of Brisbane. And the Premier's allowed that we quarantine in Brisbane as well. So that's an important facility arranged by the Chamber. Ongoing consultation with federal and state government is ongoing, particularly with the Delta variant becoming more and more prominent in various Australian states, including Queensland.
A team from the National Control Centre was in Madang for 3 days and visited the Jumba police station cell block following an outbreak of COVID-19. Last week, the National Control Centre reported that more than a dozen inmates tested positive with the deadly Delta strain of COVID-19. Martha Louise reports from Madang.
The National Command Centre team met with Madang Provincial Police Commander and a team from the Provincial Health Authority and visited Jumba Police Station lockup. This is to identify areas where support can be given to police so that care can be given to people who are in the cell.
This brings us to come and see your setups and to identify areas where support can be given to you to provide care for our people who are in the cell.
The team advised the police commander and the provincial health authorities to have a facility that has all the appropriate public health measures in place and infrastructure that can reduce the risk of transmitting COVID-19 in the cell blocks.
I mean, looking at the setup, there's a high risk of possibility of transmission. Like I said, whether it was COVID or it's going to be diarrheal disease or any TB or any other infection. So it's really a challenge trying to maintain people who were COVID-19 in here. Obviously, if there was another structure within here that once you're detected, you come in, and then when you're waiting your test result, you're kept at a certain section, but you don't mingle around with everyone else in here. If you're positive, you should be sent out to the other, like another cell block within the facility while waiting for court or release or anything.
Provincial Police Commander Chief Inspector Rubian Mandrus says due to the COVID-19 outbreak, the Jumba police station was closed and all complaints are handled at town station. However, he was summoned by the public solicitor after 25 detainees from the 75 prisoners locked up were suspected of COVID-19. The Madang National Court ordered the provincial administrator and the controller David Manning or a representative to appear in court on the 9th of August. One immediate concern was for both parties to fix the Jumba police station cell blocks.
That I have the problem with the drainage system in the cell, and water problem is the biggest problem we have. So if court can look up onto that and issue some instruction or directive that this problem has to be fixed. So I brought the matter to court. I told the court that if more possible, we get a problem in our Jumba cell done for the long run.
Police and the Madang Provincial Administrator are now liaising to fix the Jumba police station cell blocks and set up a separate quarantine cell for detainees to be tested for COVID-19. Martha Louise, National EMTV News, Madang.
A new research notes prices of mobile internet hasn't changed much despite the promises brought about by internet cable initiatives linking PNG to the United States through Guam and Australia. The research is led by Dr. Amanda Watson with help from academics at the Divine Word University and UPNG. The study is out when major competitors roll out mobile internet data initiatives.
An independent research carried out using a simple method which involves checking the phone data every Monday since the start of 2020 has noted no change in internet prices. This comes despite undersea internet cable initiatives.
All this promise about decreased prices, and to date, since the Coral Sea cable commenced operations or became available, there has been no decrease in the mobile internet prices being offered in Papua New Guinea.
The findings are out when mobile companies roll out cheap data initiatives. The lead researcher, Dr. Watson, confirms data from another research confirms the lack of access to reliable internet in the remote areas.
So that research has not yet been published, but yes, I can confirm that that research did show a substantial difference in internet speeds and reliability between other places around Papua New Guinea compared to Port Moresby.
The international undersea cable, according to Dr. Watson, has also increased the potential risks of cybersecurity.
Unfortunately, I should say unfortunately, I'm saying unfortunately because I'm Australian, but certainly there has been evidence of countries like Australia and the United States also monitoring communications.
Australia, which funded the Coral Sea cable, was accused of spying another neighboring country. Bradley Valenaki, National EMTV News.
Kilua Elementary and Primary Schools outside Mount Hagen City were presented with new water and sanitation, hygiene or wash facilities recently. They are among 200 schools in the Hagen Open Electorate of Western Highlands Province selected to pilot the WASH project. It's a partnership project between national government, European Union and UNICEF to provide students with clean water and toilets to use.
Kilua Elementary and Primary Schools are situated outside Mount Hagen City. They are lucky to receive new toilet facilities after 40 years that is inclusive to use by persons with disability. It has incinerators and water tanks for hand washing and toilet upkeeping. This was a dream come true for these schools who went without proper clean toilets for a long time.
We got water problem. Water problem, we still there. Facility, we put him gathering system backside this one.
UNICEF's WASH specialist Susan Kamini says EU and UNICEF will continue to support the national government's WASH policy to improve water, sanitation and hygiene to 70% of the population and 100% of education institutions and medical centers. Meanwhile, 9 new communities in the surrounding Kilua area also took part in the Cleanpla Community Project. They were also presented with certificates declaring their communities open defecation free.
We want to reiterate our full commitment to work with European Union and other development partners, the national government, to support access of children and access for children to an adequate and sustainable water and sanitation service.
Care International is the implementing partner of the WASH project. WASH program manager Patrick Goimba handed the keys to the school and urged them to practice health and hygiene through their hygiene club. Care International has been training locals and the schools involved the best health practices.
Very important part of development population inside the one country.
The city authority has been tasked to monitor the implementation of the WASH program. City authority CEO Leo Noki urged the locals to look after the projects.
The European Union, the World Bank or IMF, USAID or New Zealand Aid or USAID, all can come. You must
Vasinatha Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
And now looking at the NASFund market report, the kina closed unchanged at $0.2850 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina will buy $0.2775 $0.3738 Australian dollars, $0.2275 euro and 29.68 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold is trading higher, coffee and copra closed higher and cocoa closed lower. Crude oil is trading lower, palm oil closed lower and copper closed higher. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 110.02 points higher. The ASX 200 is trading at 64.56 points lower, and the All Ordinaries is trading at 70.52 points lower. National EMTV News will be back with more stories after these messages. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. The inaccessibility of health services to the rural population is a big challenge on maternal health. This was the message from Dr. Joseph Apa, the Chief Executive Officer of the Eastern Highlands Provincial Health Authority. He said women often give birth while being transported to the nearest health centres. Some lose their babies and some women have died during childbirth. This is a problem faced by women in rural communities across the country.
Especially this one. And in all facilities like this.
The Eastern Highlands Provincial Health Authority CEO Dr. Joseph Apa said maternal health is an issue in the province because women do not have access to proper health facilities. With 8 districts, the rural LLGs are linked by roads and some are only accessible by air. This is the challenge on maternal health.
Times they come up with complications of childbirth. When some of them, the babies are dying on the way or in the hospital too.
In the Kamano 2 LLG in Kainantu, locals have struggled with transporting pregnant women to the nearest aid posts to give birth. They're often carried on stretchers long distances. Some give birth on the way, others have lost their babies, and some women have died during childbirth.
Samplata mi plasa o deliver road na pikinini ara road house land na plaman inside lo bus mi plasa o kisim pastem belpe no ante mi plasa kam. Samplata mi disla hap mi plasa o kisim pikinini bilum lo pikinini sta.
Dr. Joseph Apa said 8 posts do not have maternal health facilities. However, the new health posts built in the Eastern Highlands through the National Government's Rural Primary Health Service Delivery Program have birthing wards that aim to address maternal health problems. Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News.
Trike Sports is next. All the details after the break.
Trike Sports.
Welcome to Trike Sports. A tumultuous win over the weekend by the Wagi Tumbe from Jiwaka Province, finishing off 3rd in the regular season on the Digicel Cup ladder. The team finished outside the qualifying finals over the years, but with new coach and former player Baundo Aba at the helm, it has been a successful season for the men from Warawagi, who have a solid team.
The regular season of the Digicel Cup ended on Sunday. In Port Moresby, the JPG Wagi Tumbes with a convincing 18 points to 14 win over the Croton Hella Wigmen. Former Tumbes player turned coach Baundo Aba was happy with the win.
The game is very tough. Like the Wigmen, they come up very strong in the second half. So yeah, some areas that we need to work, we'll go back and fix it.
Tumbe has become a top-notch rugby league side this year, a team that has finished 3rd after missing out in the qualifying finals for a number of years. Coach Baundo Aba says things have changed since he last played in the team last year.
As a coach, I'm really proud of my boys. Like, we listen to each other and like we do things like little things right, so that's why we come up like this. Compared to the last year, like boys like very undisciplined, and like compared to this year, like the boys are really disciplined and they listen to what we are saying, and like they did little things right. So
For the Wigmen, losing to the Tumbes was hard, especially with the absence of key players like Patrick Moria in the hooking role, while Alan Simbiri was missed in the halves.
Oh yeah, Alan Simbiri last weekend game was, up at the
Wabek, he got the concussion, so we can't play him this weekend. So we swapped the halves, Peter Pakali and Philemon from Dami have to find a combine with Tony Wemine.
The senior players stood tall in the match, players like Captain Valentine Culligan, but it seemed the players were not in motion for a win on Sunday.
Putting big effort in, trying to lift him up pace, but the boys was almost stop on time, almost flow on time, so that's why it was like I chose to. There's no one to back him up. Yeah.
Frelis Sukina, Trike Sports.
Trike Sports continues with more after these short messages. Don't go away.
Trike Sports.
Welcome back to Trike Sports. Moria Mararos, PNG's para-athlete currently ranked 8th in the world in seated javelin, will travel to Japan on the 21st of this month for the Tokyo Paralympic Games. This is the first time he will be participating in the Paralympic Games.
Moria Mararos and Nelly Leva are the only two para-athletes in PNG who qualified to take part in the Paralympics in Tokyo. Both had setbacks in their preparation towards the lead-up to the Games due to the COVID-19 situation.
Most of the training venues were closed, but we were doing our own work at home, and it just opened up this year, and we had 5, 6, 7 months training. So it was a bit of a struggle for everyone, including the athletes, but I'm glad that they continued on with the positive mindset of going there and competing, so I'm really proud of the both of them.
For Moria, this will be his first time to participate in the Paralympics in Japan. Coach Jackie Travets is confident Moria will produce some positive results.
He's taken part at some other competitions, which is the World Champs, as well as the Pacific Games, Oceania Games, Arafura Games, but this will be his first Paralympic Games. All right, so he'll be going against the world's best, so we're only there to get the experience and smash some of our personal best. So we'll bring back the experience and hopefully we'll try to fight for a medal for the country and everyone.
Moria, who is currently ranked 8th in the world, will compete in seated javelin on the 1st of September. The 24-year-old from Vabukori village received a 10,000 kina check from Mosby South MP Justin Chachenko.
I'm sure he has a good time and a pleasurable and memorable time in Japan. So very proud as a member for Mosby South to see off this champion young man who is doing so well with his disability. 8th in the world when it comes to javelin, when it comes to Paralympic sports. What a champion and a role model for everybody else. So I want to say thank you to the coach and especially all the brothers and sisters and the mother that have supported him all the way to get to where he is now.
With funding being one of the challenges in their preparation towards the Paralympic Games, Moria's family are grateful for the timely support given by the local MP.
In these past few weeks, we've been having so much challenge, but thank you so much, Honorable Justin, and we wish Moria all the best.
The team is scheduled to travel on the 21st of this month to Japan.
Going to be excited. Let's go in and doing my best that I can do.
Suli, Trike Sports.
And that ends Trike Sports. There were the details coming up next.
Trike Sports. Trike Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
I'll look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow. In the southern region only, partly cloudy with possible patchy rain in Port Moresby, cloudy with a few showers in Daru and Alotau, and cloudy with patchy rain in Kerema and Popondetta.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
And that's been the news, sport and weather for today, Tuesday, 17th of August, 2021. Until next time, pleasant viewing, be safe and good night.